Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And today I want to talk about a comment that I received on one of my videos from last week. I think it was my video where I was talking about being a good friend and showing up for your friends and things. I think I called it like the art of friendship or something like that. And I think this is the video that I got the comment on. I just screenshot the video or the comment. But anyway, I got this comment on the video and the comment said, but what if you're reaching out to said friend many times and they never have the time to reciprocate? Ever. What's the next step? And somebody responded to this and they said, I'm not trying to be rude, but that person might not be the friend you thought they were. If they're a friend to you at all, maybe you should find a better friend. And so when I read this comment, I was like, wow, like this is painful. I've been there before, right? I have been there before when the friendship has ended and you don't necessarily even realize that the friendship has ended. And I think that that's one of the hardest things ever. I've had this happen to me a couple times in my life. I actually did a video, I don't even know when it was probably like a year or two ago, maybe 3 years ago, and I called it like being ghosted. And I don't know if that was the video where I shared this story, but I had this friend years and years and years ago, and we were very, 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 very close. And there was a period of time where like the relationship just was like, I was reaching out, and they were not reciprocating at all. And I was still like holding on. I was holding on for dear life because I loved this person. I adored this person. We had, you know, really, really like deep times together and whatever. And what I didn't know at that time that I know today is that they were going through a lot of stuff in their life, right? But as a friend, I felt like they could at least communicate it to me. And I just didn't understand. I just didn't really know what was going on at all. To the point where like, I was not in a good space. And I can remember my husband, like he was very, very worried about me. He was like, you're trying so hard and they're like not reciprocating. I was asking other people like, what did I do wrong? Years later, we had this like sit down conversation, this friend of mine. And I mean, it was probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years later. We had a sit down conversation and, she said something to me about, like, do you want to talk about what happened? And in all honesty, what had happened in that time was that at first and it wasn't like anything really that I had done. She just kind of like distanced herself from like this group that I was part of, right? But I didn't understand because I thought our friendship like extended further than just that group of friends, right? And so what had happened over time was I had reached out to her so many times through the years and tried to like, you know, try to work this friendship out. Never heard anything from her. That what happened over time was that the emotional attachment just went away. Like I just didn't really, like I love her to this day. I wish her the best. I want only the best for her, but I don't really have an emotional attachment towards her today. You know, I'm somebody that when I leave friendships and I leave relationships, I try to remember the good times. I try to remember the fond memories. I'm not somebody that, I don't know where I learned this. It was in a romantic relationship. I think it was, anyway, where I just remember I was like so bitter. And then there was a turning point where I was looking through some pictures and I was just like laughing. And I was thinking to myself like, oh my God, we had such good times together. And I just kind of decided like, I don't want to be bitter at this person anymore. You know, like it didn't end well, but I don't want my memories of that time, because it's not just time that I spent with that person, it's also time of my life. Like, I don't want my memories of that period of my life to be tainted by just constant negativity and bitterness and misery. Like, I don't want to look at that period of my life, you know, and be like, oh my God, like, blah, 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 whatever. And so that was when my whole perspective changed. And I just kind of was like, you know, when you get out of a romantic relationship, and I'm talking about just the run of the mill. I'm not talking about abusive situations that you're going to carry that trauma forever, you know, really hard situations. I'm talking about just run of the mill breakups, friends that move away, friends that just your lives go apart. And, you know, like I've had a lot of friends like that through the years. I mean, honest to God, I mean, most of my friendships, you know, like that have kind of faded away, it hasn't been because of anything except for life, you know, that's like somebody gets a new job, they meet new people, they get new interests, they move somewhere else, they move to a different part of town or a different state, and life just happens, you know. But there have been a couple of situations in my life where I did feel very bitter and angry and resentful, and then I was carrying that. into the other parts of my life. And I don't want to feel like that. And so I made a decision that, like, looking back on past relationships, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to remember the good times. And I still do that today. You know, when people be like, oh, like, you know, didn't you used to date so-and-so? Or, you know, didn't you? I'd be like, oh, yeah, they're a really good person. You know, we had really good times together or whatever. And I try to, like, remember those times. I have had friendships of mine in the past, though, where I have reached out over and over and over again. And I have shown up for people and I've been there for them, and it's just not reciprocated at all. And I think that there's a message that comes with that, right? I think the message is that person just doesn't really want to be in my life anymore. And that's okay. That's okay. You know, I had a friend of mine tell me years and years and years ago, I mean, probably in my early 20s, that people come into our life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And I'm a big believer in that. I really, really am. As sad as that statement is, that I've had a lot of people in my life that have been reason people. And I've probably been reason people for a lot of people too, you know, that I've learned something from them, or they've taught me a valuable lesson. And maybe that valuable lesson was just to be more confident in myself, or to believe in myself more, or to be more fun, or to shine brighter, you know, like maybe that was the lesson that they learned. Then I've had a lot of seasoned people in my life, you know. I had a friend of mine that recently passed away, and he was definitely a seasoned friend of mine. A very profound figure in my life that really shaped me into who I am today. And, you know, but we were very, very dear friends in my youth. And he and I actually talked, not like it wasn't recently, but not too long ago. And, you know, it was interesting. Like, it was kind of like no time had gone by. I mean, there was no bitterness. There was no anger or resentment. Like, our lives had just gone different places. Like, he moved to a different part of town. He got, you know, a new relationship. He got a new job. My life looked differently, and we just kind of faded apart. There was no anger there. But I think that we kind of like came together at a certain part of our life, and we were like really, really close. You know, my old roommate that I used to live with, I mean, I thought a day would never go by where I wouldn't see her. And, I mean, I haven't seen her in probably, I don't even know how long, 15 years now, probably something like that. And maybe longer than that. And, I mean, we talk every once in a while. I mean, she lives in Germany, so it's not like we can, you know, see each other all the time. I don't love her any less, but I wouldn't say she is as important of a figure in my life today as she was back then. You know, and it's like, I look at my friend, like my best friend, Tanya Jean, and I think like she's like a lifetime friend. I hope. I mean, I've only, in all honesty, had a couple lifetime people in my life. You know, it's interesting because I have friends of mine that like do have lifetime people in their life that they've known ever since they were like in elementary school. And I think that would be so cool, wouldn't it? You know, but even my friends from high school, we're good. Like, we're good, and we'll check in on each other every once in a while. But, you know, I can remember being in high school and being like, we're going to, like, you know, stay in contact. I mean, we never really had the fantasy of all living on the same street and all that kind of stuff together. But, you know, I mean, I always thought, like, you know, we'll stay in contact. We'll see each other a couple times a year. We'll travel together and stuff. And that just, I mean, I don't even know that I've seen some of those friends of mine. You know, we'll keep up to, you know, comment on somebody's Facebook post or something like that. But I don't even know some of those people I've talked to in years. I mean, a friend of mine, she and I have like the same birthday a year apart. And, well, she's a year younger than me. And we usually always reach out to each other and talk on our birthdays. We haven't done that for probably 4 or 5 years. You know, and so it's interesting like how things change over time. I don't consider that, and with a lot of those people, I really tried, you know, keep in touch and, you know, keep it going and whatever. My friends had kids. My friends got married. I got married. You know, like, life changes. You know, it's like, I can remember I used to work in a treatment facility. And when I worked there, there was a group of 5 or 6 of us that were inseparable. We worked together. We were on the same team. I thought we would work together until the day we were retired. That was not what God had planned for us, you know? And we all went separate ways. Some of us keep in contact. Some of them I haven't talked to since the day I left, you know? And so it doesn't mean that I care about them any less. It doesn't mean that if I've ran into people before and I've been like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. I've had those people though that mean more than that I really thought we were lifetime friends. And I really thought that it was going to go the distance, that I have reached out to and I have tried to make plans with and whatever. And they don't respond. And you know what? And I don't know if, it's because they don't see me fitting into their life, or I don't see them fitting in. I don't know. I don't really know what it's about. It hurts from time to time, but I've kind of moved on from that. You know, I am not, there was actually, this is good because I was going to do a whole video responding to these Instagram memes, and I will just share one of them right now if I can find it. Hold on, when did I share these? Repeat after me. We do not beg to sit at tables we were not invited to. We do not chase people who exclude or ignore us. We do not seek healing from those who hurt us. We do not sell ourselves out to get into someone's circle. We do not set ourselves on fire to keep others warm. We create our own circle. We surround ourselves with only those who truly love, understand, and respect us. We learn where to express our energy. We remember our self-worth. You know, I've had a couple people in my life that have told me, like, I've been such a good friend to you, blah, 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 whatever. But when I look back at the relationship, I think of it differently. You know, I think I did chase after that friendship. You know, I did beg to sit at their table many, many times. I tried to fix that situation. I don't do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. Repeat after me. We do not beg to sit at tables we were not invited to. We do not chase people who exclude or ignore us, and we do not seek healing from those who hurt us. I am no longer willing to fight for a relationship that I'm not willing to fight for a seat at a table that I'm not wanted at that table to begin with, if that makes sense. And neither should you. If you have reached out time and time again and somebody has not responded to you or put you off or ghosted you or blown you off, that should be a clear sign to you that that person does not want you in their life for whatever reason, okay? And maybe they're trying to be amicable about it. You know, I have talked a lot in my videos about setting boundaries and setting limits, and I'm just being completely fair to the situation. I have had people that no longer wanted me to be part of their life, and I've had several people in my life that I did not want them to be part of my life anymore, okay? I've tried to say that to them clearly. I have tried to say that to them not clearly, okay? And they sometimes do not get the hint. I don't know. Maybe that's the situation here. Or maybe this is just a really rude person. You know, I think sometimes we have to look at ourselves in that situation too. I've had to ask myself in this situation, have they given me some hints and maybe they don't want me to be around anymore and I'm just not listening to it? You know, I think sometimes we have to listen to that. And if that's not the case, and you really have been a good friend to them, and you really have shown up for them, then this is just really a rude person that's not willing to go the distance with you. I'm not, if I am trying to fight to be in somebody's life, I don't do that anymore, first of all, but in the past when I did. If I'm fighting to be in somebody's life, to go out to dinner, then that's probably not going to be somebody that's going to show up for me on my worst day. I also have had to learn that, and this is going to sound really crazy, but the opposite of that is true too, that I have had people in my life that only show up for me on the worst days, but never show up when I just want to have a laugh or grab a coffee. I need people that are going to show up for me, and I need to show up for them as well. This is why my circle is so small, okay? This is why I don't have a lot of people in my life, because I want people in my life that want to show up for me on the good days, the funny days, the sad days, the tragic days, all the days in between, and I want to show up for them on those days as well. That's how I define friendships today, and it's my life, and I get to define the friendships in a way that I want them to. I don't want to reach out to somebody and feel worse after I've reached out to them when I'm like, hey, I'd love to see you. Can we like go do something? And it's nothing. I don't want to feel worse about that. So does that make sense? So I don't reach out to people anymore. I just don't. And that's been hard for me. You know, I would say in the last 30 years, there's been quite a few people that, for whatever reasons, like our friendships have just gone awry, or they've gotten busy, or we don't want something to do with it. I don't know, you know? But there's sadness in that. I think when I look at the fact that people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, okay? And probably the majority of that is seasons, people that have come into my life. But how very few people I have in my life, and many of them are family, that are lifetime people, right? And then when I talk about friendships in my videos, and there are so many people that are like, I've never even had a friend in my life, let alone a best friend, that to even have had that experience, to even be able to sit at the table of friendship once or twice is enough. But I don't know where I'm at today in my life that I would continue to chase after somebody, and I would continue to ring up somebody and text them and call them and beg for their attention when they are making it very clear they don't want me in their life. But that's just me, you know? That's just me. Because I don't, like my best friend Tanya Jean says, why are you dialing up pain? Don't dial up pain. I don't dial up pain anymore. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you for the comment. I thought it was a great comment. I think it's something that a lot of us relate to when we have tried to mend relationships that maybe are just, like maybe it's just not fixable. Maybe it's just, maybe it served its purpose, it served its time. I don't know, And I think then for us, we have to be like, okay, what do I do? I think the other thing I would recommend is, if you've done everything else, reach out to the person and say, obviously you do not want to speak to me, so can you just let me know before I let this go for good what I did, just so that I can have some closure on it. And I think that's a very important piece. When I finally said that to my friend that we didn't talk for years, she said at that time, she said, it didn't really have anything to do with you at that time. It had a lot to do with me. And I said, well, you sure could have communicated that to me because it felt very, very personal. And she said, you know what? You're right. I could have. And I said, but that was 3 to 4 years of me sitting there wondering what I had done wrong. And she said, well, you didn't really do anything wrong. And I said, but I didn't know that. And I said, had I asked you at that time, would you have told me? She said, no. Because I didn't even know that at that time. So you might not get the answer you want, but you sure deserve to ask it. Because I think that we deserve to be able to have closure with relationships in our life. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys. Thank you for the comment. And any comments you want to leave, I will respond to. And or if they make a topic for a video, I will address it and respond to it. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.